All right, so here's the thing. Parents are mentors at home, but so many times parents fail to lead well, and it just simply comes down to a scheduling issue. Families are so busy these days, and a lot of times the thing that loses out is intentional, meaningful conversations with your kids. Think about what you schedule as a family each week. You probably make your kids go to school. You make them do their sports thing or their band thing or go to youth group or whatever it is, right? So see, the message that we're sending when we schedule something and we make our kids do it is we're sending them the message that that means something to us, that that's a priority for us. When you schedule something, then doing it becomes the rule. When you don't schedule something, then doing it becomes the exception. How often do you have intentional, meaningful conversations with your kids? Compared to, making sure that you get them to practice and making sure that you feed them and making sure that they go to school or do their homework. If you value transferring a biblical worldview to your kids, then you're going to have to be intentional about having conversations with your kids and with your teens. It's not just going to happen by default. You've got to schedule it. Once a week, once a day, whatever it takes, put it on the schedule. Be purposeful about having meaningful conversations with your kids. Now, that's what our resources online are all about. And we just encourage you to pick interesting topics every week. Don't pick stuff that just you're interested in. Pick stuff that your kids are dealing with. Teach them how to talk about everyday life issues with a biblical worldview in mind. And let your kids lead the conversation every once in a while. I hope you don't just have family time or family devotional time where you're sitting the kids down on the couch and you're preaching at them or you're pointing your finger at them. I hope you turn it into a conversation. A conversation is where the kids show up, you've already picked the topic, everyone's ready to talk about it, and then you encourage the kids to explain it in their own words, and you talk through those discussion questions. You help them discover what it means to have a biblical worldview and what it means for a teen or for a kid to apply it to their everyday life. When you do this, you're creating a conversational culture in your home. What that means is, these intentional times of talking with your kids will eventually give way to just everyday conversations when you're driving in the car. But, learning how to do it in a structured environment is helpful, and it'll help you to really talk about just God's truth all the time. It'll help you articulate a biblical worldview, but it'll also help your kids articulate it and buy into that kind of a worldview. This is what Moses challenged the Israelites to do when they were about to enter into the promised land. He gave the parents a pep talk, and here's what he said. "These are the commands and decrees and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land that you're about to enter and occupy. And you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all these decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life." He said, you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. See, Moses was saying this: I'm not your kid's pastor. You're their pastor. You have to mentor your kids. Parents, listen, your pastor at church isn't your kid's pastor. Your youth pastor at church isn't your teen's pastor. You are the mentor. You are the pastor at home. And that means you have to schedule conversations, meaningful, biblical conversations that will help your kids to embrace your values, a biblical worldview, the values of Jesus. And you have to put it on the schedule if you want to see it happen.